the 11th, would that refresh your recollection?
It wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me show you. Could it have been a phone call you're thinking of?
Maybe.
Okay, so a formal interview didn't actually take place until the 11th, but you had some kind of phone calls and
Yes.
exchanges with them. Okay.
Yes.
I'll try to be a little clear about
Yes.
that. I know there was a lot of moving parts for you in this case. All right, so, but you had you had obtained that video from the driver.
Renee.
Renee, prior to showing-
Interviewing them, yes.
Okay. And that interview, when you received that video, what did you do with the video?
I actually showed Chloe the video.
Okay, but you obviously watched it first.
I did.
Okay, and that became part of your case file, correct?
Yes.
All right. At this time, I would move to admit the video from November 27th, 2020.
Any objection?
Your Honor, I do object. She didn't take the video. She's not the right person to authenticate the video. I'd ask that come in with Renee Driver. The fact that she had it in her case file is not the
I'm not,
authentication.
sorry, Ms. Crawford.
Okay.
I'm not tendering it for what the contents are or the truth of the matter asserted. She received that video and she can verify that that in fact is the video that she watched and referenced and showed Chloe on December the 10th.
And this is D6? No. This is D7?
D7.
All right, I think you need to lay further foundation for it before
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
admissible.
Sure. So you received this Facebook video, or excuse me, this video directly from Ms. Driver, correct?
That's correct.
Do you remember what email it came from? Or whether it came directly from her cell phone to yours?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Can you clarify which Ms. Driver?
I'm sorry, Ms. Renee Driver.
I'm sorry. I don't know if it came via text or email.
But you don't have any doubt in your mind that it came from Ms. Renee Driver, correct?
Correct.
And that she had articulated to you that that was a video coming directly from her cell phone, correct?
Yes. She said she was going to be sending it.
Okay. I would again move to tender defense 6. 7.
I have the same objection, Your Honor. This witness cannot lay the foundation for what that video is, when it was taken, what was depicted in it. That needs to come from Ms. Renee Driver. Same objection.
Okay. If you can explore it any further, I'll allow it. Otherwise, I will sustain the objection to admissibility at this time.
Okay. Based on your receipt of that video, you took that video to show it to Chloe as part of your investigation, correct?
Correct.
Because it raised some concerns to you, correct?
Yes.
And you don't have any reason to doubt that what the information was with respect to the date and time that was received directly from the file from Ms. Renee Driver, correct?
I'm sorry. Say that.
That the date and time on that you didn't have any reason to believe the authentication or that it wasn't authentic, what she had sent you, meaning that there was any date or time change or anything else on that.
Now that I couldn't tell you.
Okay, but all you know is that in response to your investigation, Ms. Driver Renee Driver told you that she had this video and that she thought it was important to the case.
She thought it was important to the case. She sent it to me.
Okay, and based on that, you took that information and took that to Chloe on December the 10th and showed her that video.
I showed Chloe the video. I wanted more context on the video.
And as we saw on the body cam earlier, she indicated that that was in fact her in that video, correct?
Yes.
And that she identified herself as taking that video or being the part of that video from her mom's cell phone.
I'm assuming so.
Okay. You don't have a specific recollection, but she didn't say anything like, no, that's fake or anything like that.
All she did was wave her hand when I showed it to her.
That's as if she didn't want to see it again?
Correct.
Okay. Again, Judge, I'll move to tender defense 7.
I have the same objection. I don't think the proper foundation's been laid.
All right. I will allow D7 to be admitted over objection.
Request permission to publish, Judge?
Go ahead.
My name is Chloe Driver. It's 11/27/2020. I'm being forced to get into a truck with Benjamin Ben Mikhail or Brian Joyce to see my daughter again because he has kept her away from me. I do not know where she is, and he won't tell me anything. He's kept her with people that I don't really know well, and I don't know what's going on with her, and I'm being forced to get in the car and go with him to be able to see her, and I don't even know if I'm actually going straight to her, but I'm doing whatever I think I can to get to her. Her name is Hannah Nicole Driver.
And that's the same video you showed her at the hospital, correct?
That's the same video I showed her.
Okay. Did Miss Renee Driver also send you some screenshots of some text messages?
Yes,
Okay. And did you make those text messages part of your case file?
I did.
Okay. And you again don't remember the specific date that you received those?
I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay. I'm gonna show you. We're on 7 now, Jonathan? 28. I'm gonna show you a picture. Marked B8.
This is one of the photos that she sent to me.
Okay, so Miss Renee Driver sent you that picture.
Mhm.
Okay. And that again came from her cell phone or her email directly to you?
Mhm.
Okay. And you made that part of your case file?
I did.
Okay. Is the person that is depicted in that particular photo the same individual you were conducting this investigation on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you have any date, reference in, as to when that picture was in fact taken?
I do not.
Okay. We would move to admit defense 8. Is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, it's admitted.
Going to have to publish that in just a minute, Judge. Is this the picture that I just showed you marked as defense 8?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's the picture that you said you received from Ms. Driver, Renee Driver?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. So on December the 9th was the very next day, and you had not gone out and talked to Chloe anytime on the 8th, correct? You were busy doing all of those interviews and everything else, but you were being apprised of what her condition and everything was?
Yes.
Okay. And you also spoke to some other individuals on the 9th. Do you recall who you spoke to?
I believe I spoke to Ben Michael. I believe I spoke to Jason and Sarah again.
Okay. When you went out to the hospital on the 9th, the purpose of going out there, you also had obtained that search warrant for her person, correct?
That's correct.
To obtain the DNA swabs?
Yes.
Okay.
On the inside of her cheek and on her hands.
Okay. And you were also going out there to take
Photos.
photos of Chloe for that particular, okay. When you went out there, you went over her Miranda rights again with her
I did.
and explained to her what the purpose of that particular meeting was for,
Yes.
and that you already had the warrant, and that she was, that you were going to do that because a judge had already told you you could.
Yes. And
At
I
any-
put the paperwork right next to the bed.
Okay, but at any point in time, did she try to fight with you or tell you that you couldn't do that?
No.
Okay, she was cooperative with you?
Yes.
All right, and one of the first things that you told her is that you wanted to make sure that she was okay, correct?
That's correct.
All right, because at that point, you had already done some initial investigation, and then there were some red flags that had already been raised.
Huge red flags.
Okay, and one of the purposes, aside from the search warrant, that you communicated to Ms. Driver was that you wanted to get stuff from her body to make sure that nobody had hurt her in particular.
Also to verify paternity and maternity.
Correct, but that was one of the statements you made to her, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so that being said, you, did you notice on that day that whether or not you could see her black eye?
Yes.
Okay, but you didn't document that in your report or anything until the next day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it was present there on December the 9th?
Oh, yes, 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 I'm sorry.
On December the 9th, do you remember if it was her left or her right eye? Do you recall?
If she was sitting towards me, it'd be the left.
Left eye, okay.
Mhm.
And it had looked like it had been in the process of healing for some time?
Yes.
Okay. You also told her that she did not have to speak with you at any point in time, correct?
That's correct.
And you did go over that Miranda form and she did sign it and talk to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that, she did answer all the questions you asked her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna show you. Some pictures. From the day. Have you identify them, okay?
Okay.
And when you went out there that day, you brought your own camera equipment and everything like that, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and then what kind of items did you bring to do the DNA testing and for the parentage?
I brought some buccal swabs and then an actual DNA swab kit.
Okay, can you explain what a buccal swab is and how you take that?
Sure, it's just a Q-tip, a long Q-tip, and it's sealed. You open it, you put some water on it, put it in their cheek. You don't have to if you don't want to put water on it. Usually saliva is enough. And then with the DNA kit itself, to take blood, you would use water and try to swab from there.
Okay, but she was fairly cooperative with you in that whole process. You didn't have any issues with her?
I did not have any issues with her.
All right. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
These are the photos that I took that day. Yep. Yep, absolutely.
You would move to admit defense 8 through 12 and then publish to the jury?
Objection mistake.
All right, 8, this is 8, 9, I think 8 was
8,
already
9.
admitted.
Oh.
9, 10, 11.
That's pretty accurate.
Okay. And at that point, she had not talked to anybody, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so she didn't have her cell phone at the hospital, correct?
She did not.
And as far as you know, she had not communicated with Benjamin or her parents or anybody up until that particular point, because she was in the ICU, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so you were kind of, aside from the hospital staff, her first kind of point of contact.
I would think so.
Okay. When she agreed to speak with you, she wrote down those answers to your questions. What was her demeanor?
I mean, as any person that was hurt would be, sad.
She was crying,
She was crying.
and at points, I think you would agree with me, she was sobbing,
Oh, yeah.
because there were points and times where you had to go out and ask for the medical staff because things started going off in alarms in the
Oh, yeah.
in the room. So she was having some very real physical reactions to what she was communicating with you about.
That's correct.
Okay, and you were able to observe that, and we saw that on your body cam, correct?
That's correct.
All right. All right. So let's talk about at what point did you learn about a prior, without telling me the contents of it, learn about a prior incident with the Asheville PD?
I think Benjamin is the one who brought it up.
Okay. Did you or your sergeant, after that interview, request the law enforcement reports?
I did.
Okay. And do you remember at what point in time in your investigation you did that?
Oh, I would have done it immediately after I got back to the office.
Okay. Do you know approximately how long it was before you received those?
I don't.
Okay. But that was something that was on your radar?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you wanted to find out what law enforcement had to say with respect to those particular incidents? Because you already had Mr. Spillers and Mr. Ben Michaels, correct?
Correct.
All right. And after seeing that video, you were concerned, correct?
Correct.
All right. So on December the 10th, let's talk about what else you did that day. Do you recall going out and seeing Chloe before talking to some other individuals that day? Or do you remember the order of how you did things that day?
I don't remember the
Okay.
order, unfortunately. That was
That's okay.
almost 4 years ago.
Understood.
But I did talk to a lot of people that day, yes.
Okay, so you spoke to, you were contacted by Benjamin. Okay, and I believe you've already told us Ms. Renee Driver, correct?
Yes.
All right, and all of these phone calls actually are recorded, correct?
Everything's recorded.
All right, so they're all documented so that there can't be any dispute as to what was said. Is that
That's
fair?
correct.
All right. And you talked, then you went back out to talk to Chloe because you had promised her you were going to come back the next day.
And I did.
All right, and part of that was because she had asked to be able to speak with her mother and Benjamin, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and you, at that particular point in time, I think also read her Miranda warning again?
I did.
Okay, and that was prior to any of those phone calls?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Do you recall having any conversations with the doctors at Kennestone that day prior to talking with Miss Driver, Miss Chloe Driver?
I might have, yes.
Okay. Do you recall which doctors those were?
I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay. Do you recall telling those doctors that that the people she was associating with made her feel paranoid?
No, I don't remember
Okay.
that.
If there's a recording or a transcript that indicates that, you have no reason to dispute that.
I would
correct?
have no reason to dispute that.
Okay. Do you recall telling the doctors about that very video we were just talking about? Do you remember talking to them at all about that?
No,
Okay. But again, if it's in a transcript of
it would be on video recording.
Okay. And again, no reason to dispute any of that. Do you recall talking to these doctors about scenarios where a mom loses a child or anything like that?
No.
Okay. But again, if there's a recording of it.
If there's a recording of it, then absolutely.
Okay. And talking about how sometimes women use desperate measures.
Again,
Okay. I get it's 4 years ago, but if there's a recording.
if
or
there's a
transcript-
recording, then yes.
Okay. Not trying to trip you up. I'm just.
Nope, you don't have to.
So we went back, and the first phone call you made was to Mr. Ben Michael, correct?
That is correct.
All right, and that was actually before you started talking to Chloe about any other questions or things you wanted to talk to her directly about, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and you contacted him, and it took a minute for him to answer the phone, correct?
Yes.
Or took, yeah, and he was kind of, I think I heard you kind of going, Ben,
Hello?
Ben?
Yeah.
Like, and at that point, he did not have his phone back, correct? It was a different
did
phone.
not.
So that was a different phone that you had to call him on?
Yes, I think it would have been Jessica's phone that I called him
Jessica's
on.
phone, okay. And in that conversation, you told him that she couldn't speak still, or could only whisper,
Correct.
and that she was going to be writing down her questions and answers.
That's correct.
And then he understood that you were kind of going to be the middleman to navigate that conversation, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And during this interaction with him, was she crying?
Certain parts, yes.
Okay. And he, started asking her questions about when she went to get the knife. Do you recall that?
I do recall that.
All right. And, she also communicated, at least at that particular point in time, it took a little bit for them to get there, but that she told him that she did not feel like she had a choice.
That's correct.
All right. And that her response, he was not really understanding of what that meant. And so she responded, I felt safest and I felt horrible. I went because I had no choice. Is that your recollection?
That's correct.
All right. And then he asked her, why did you feel like you had no choice? And then she proceeded to write out that answer to you, correct?
That's correct.
And those answers are the ones that were admitted through the state's case, but you didn't alter in any way. That's all her handwriting.
That's
correct?
all her handwriting.
All right. And in fact, you were having to kind of jumble a bunch of paper to try to keep up with her at certain points in time. Is
Oh
that
yeah,
fair?
she was going really fast.
All right. And she wrote down at that point in time that she couldn't handle being with the group anymore and that you left no alternative with certain threats, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So when the word threats came out, did that raise another red flag to you?
Always.
All right. And his response was that he wasn't sure what anyone was referring to, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then you tell him that you asked him to be truthful because you told him that you felt she was being truthful and honest in what she was writing down and communicating with you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And she started talking about the other girls, their teachings, and blaming herself, I guess, for the world's pain.
That's correct.
All right. And how she wanted a normal life, but she didn't kind of articulate what that meant, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay. And that there was something about he was constantly telling her that she kept distracting and removing. Do you remember him saying that to her or her saying that to him? And,
Yes, I think she wrote it down.
and that you really weren't sure what she was talking about, but she kept reiterating that point to him. Is
That's
that fair
correct.
to say? Okay. Do you recall her writing down that, after Ben Yeoman asked why, then she responded, you refuse to listen? Do you remember her saying that to him?
Yes.
All right. And telling him, how many times did I state how I felt things would go if I remained in that state? You recall that?
Yes.
And the words I think we saw earlier on the screen in her handwriting was that she screamed and begged to him, correct?
Yes.
And that you didn't take, and she thought he didn't take her seriously.
That's pretty accurate.
And that Mr. Ben Michael was repeatedly kept pressing the why question. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
And she was answering that. She was answering with her explanations of what was going on in her mind at that time, correct?
That is what she stated.
Okay. And then one of the things that she ended up saying prior to the conversation ended is that Benjamin taught her about the messed up inner layers and the
Black magic.
black magic that he was doing to their daughter, correct? Or to her, I think is what he said.
Right.
Okay. So you didn't know if he was talking about the child or to Chloe at that point in time.
I knew they were talking amongst each other.
Correct.
Not necessarily about Hannah.
Okay. But at that point in time, you kind of sensed that conversation really wasn't going anywhere, correct?
It wasn't going anywhere for me.
Okay. That's fair. But it was also upsetting her.
Tremendously.
It was, it was evoking a physical response.
That
with
is
her.
correct.
And so you decided that was pretty much,
Yeah.
we're not going anywhere. And she actually said she had nothing else to say, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then at that end of that conversation, you start talking to her. First thing I think you said is, okay, I have questions. Like, you wanted to follow up on some of that stuff that you just heard.
Yes,
All right. And one of the things that you asked her about was the cuts on her hands.
that's correct.
Do you recall about how many cuts you noticed on her hand?
Just 2.
Just 2? Were there any on her left hand that you noticed?
Nope, it was just the right.
Okay, but you did make another note in that particular, on that particular day about the black eye again, correct?
I did.
All right, did you happen to notice if any old marks or anything on her wrists?
I did not.
Okay, and you asked her about the black eye, correct?
Mhm.
And she said, I don't know.
Yeah, she said she did not know.
And, it's not uncommon for people who maybe have been abused or in that way to not identify somebody that might have hurt them, correct?
That's very common.
Okay. And at this point in time, you were trying to establish a rapport with her and get her to communicate with you because you were still in the throes of this wild investigation.
Yeah, I wanted to get more context on the whole situation.
Okay. And at that particular point in time, she told you that she was in the same state of mind for about 2 months, correct?
She wrote it down. Yes,
Yeah.
she did.
All right, and that, that she indicated to you that she had felt like she kept getting worse and no one cared.
That's correct.
All right, and that, that was when I think you showed her that video we were talking about. And then again, that kind of evoked
A physical response again. Yes.
and emotional too, right?
Yes.
Did she turn away and not want to watch it, or she just put her hand and waved?
I think she actually turned her head and put her hand out.
Okay.
If I'm
All right.
making sense of everything. Yeah.
And based on that response, you followed up with that because you're trying to find out what was really going on in this relationship, correct?
I wanted to know all of the relationship. Mhm.
Okay. And you asked her at that point in time, do you feel like he is controlling you? And what did she say? Or what did she write down?
Yes.
Okay. And then you asked her if, I think it was about the CBD. There was some discussion about the CBD.
That's correct.
Because you had indicated that you had learned from one of your interviews that there was discussion about medications or something like that.
Ben Yamin had told me that
Okay.
he gave her medications.
All right. And then so you were asking Miss Chloe Driver, I'm just going to call her Chloe, then
Yeah,
we'll just go
Chloe's
that way, about the CBD.
That's correct.
All right. At that point in time, had you located or any of the supposed CBD or anything else like that?
So when we looked in the baby bag, it was in the baby bag, but I didn't know it was CBD.
Okay.
I don't know what CBD looks like, so.
Well, let's talk about what was in the baby bag for a second. So I know we talked about the carrots and the identification and the cash and the receipts and stuff, but there actually were 2 things in that bag that were not photographed, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and one of those was the bottle that was, a bottle with a teardrop, a dropper in it, correct?
That's correct.
And then in preparation from this case, we learned that it had a label indicating it was in fact CBD, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and then there was also that little, I don't know if it was glass or plastic, but that little jar of that orange substance, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and then you understand that substance was field tested.
It was field tested, but
Okay.
not by me.
Correct, but that, it didn't field test for anything other than CBD. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware.
Okay, but those things were in that diaper bag at that time too?
Yes.
Okay, and so when she started telling you about this CBD that she had been given by Mr. Spillers or Mr. Benyamin, that stuff actually was in that diaper bag, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and that she told you that when she started that CBD, that it was an increase in paranoia, correct?
Yeah, I think she said she got worse.
Yeah. And then you asked if Jason had ever hurt her, correct?
Yes,
And you were direct. You asked if it was Mr. Spillers, correct?
I did.
All right, and that was after you had already, talked to Benyamin and Mr. Spillers, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and she told you that he had hurt her maybe once or twice, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and then that's where you also learned that additional information about that Asheville incident, correct?
I had already known about the Asheville incident.
No, but that she brought it up to you.
Yes, she brought it up, yes.
Okay, because prior to that, you had learned about it from an independent source, but not necessarily had spoken to Ms. Driver about it.
Correct.
All right. And she told you at that time that she didn't trust them and that she felt scared.
Yes,
Okay. And she didn't tell you who them was, but she didn't use the, a singular in that sense. It was them.
it was just them, and I asked her who. She didn't give it to me.
She didn't give it to you. And that she also told you at that particular time that she just wanted to die with her daughter.
That's correct.
Okay. And throughout these 2 days that you spent with her, she was emotional.
Very.
She was crying
Yep.
and was indicating some level of remorse for after realizing what had happened, correct?
I don't know if it was an indication of remorse, but
Okay,
yes.
but she was showing an emotional and physical
She was.
response that you could see and document. Is that
Absolutely.
fair to say? Okay. And then you decided it would be a good time to contact her mom.
Yes.
Okay, and she at that point had not talked to, as far as you knew, she had not talked to her mom, Renee, or Eric Driver, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and again, we think that the first time she talked to someone on the phone was with Ben Yamin with you, correct? As far
That's-
as we know.
That's correct.
But she certainly didn't have a cell phone.
She
there.
certainly didn't have a cell phone.
And she was in the ICU
That's correct.
and didn't have a phone or anything that you could tell within reaching distance from what you
Not that I
recall.
saw.
Okay. So you were able to get her mom, Renee Driver, on the phone, and there was a little bit of difficulty, at least talking to her. So she suggested to do a FaceTime.
That's correct.
All right, and so you did that FaceTime call with on your phone.
Yes.
Okay.
On my work phone.
All right, and she immediately kind of had another emotional response to seeing her mom.
That's correct.
Okay, and she, upon seeing her mom, or first hearing her voice and then deciding a FaceTime call would be better, she had written down, "I'm sorry I killed her, I should have stayed."
Yes.
Okay. And then, one of the things that also came out in that was that Renee asked you point blank, like, did she do these injuries to herself? Because she didn't necessarily know. So she asked you that, correct? On that FaceTime call, do you recall that?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was when you communicated to her that she had, in fact, at least as far as you knew from your investigation thus far, that they were self-inflicted.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you become aware of what exactly Ms. Driver's injuries were, or how many wounds there were?
So I saw the 2 wounds while taking the pictures, but I did not actually get the medical records until much later. So I did not know of the internal actually injuries until I read the reports.
Okay. But when you reviewed those are the Kennestone records?
That's correct.
Okay, so when you reviewed those reports, I think you're indicating those internal injuries that would have included the collapsed lung, correct?
That's correct.
All right, but there was notes about I think 4 or 5 stab wounds to her neck.
Mhm.
Do you recall that?
I do recall that, yes.
Okay. And then the one on her
Chest.
Okay. And when you took that picture of her on the side, it was because of how they had to, for surgery, do you recall which one I'm talking about? I can show you.
I know the back picture you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a bandage on her side. Do you recall if that was from one of the
I don't
wounds?
recall if it was from surgery or not. I can only assume that it was from surgery.
Okay. But she also had that trach, correct?
That's correct.
And she had a
Feeding tube.
What I can presume would be a catheter.
Yep,
And she was hooked up to the whole 9 yards.
that's correct.
All right, and so she really couldn't get up and move around on her own or anything else like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Let's talk about what else you did on December the 10th, okay? Give me 1 second. Do you recall when you spoke to Brian and Brian's parents? Do you remember when that was?
It would have been a couple days after.
Okay. And you also talked to someone, and you don't need to tell me anything about the contents of that, but someone by the name of Lauren Paget?
I talked to a lot of people, yes.
Okay. But that name sounds familiar?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you recall receiving an additional phone call from Jason Spillers on December the 11th of 2020?
Might have recording of it. I don't know.
Okay. But it wasn't something you don't have an independent recollection of you calling him, reaching out to him for additional information, correct?
No.
All right, and so you got back to your office and found out that he had called, and you called him back, correct?
Possibly, yes.
All right, but you don't remember the specific contents of that call?
No.
Okay. And I believe we already started talking about this, but Mr. and Mrs. Driver did not live in Georgia, correct?
They did not.
So they were they had been in communication with you throughout that week, correct?
That's correct.
And they had sent you some emails with additional information kind of every step of the way, correct?
Correct.
And you actually had set up a time, once you figured out that neither one of them could physically visit Chloe in the hospital, you set up a time to sit down and talk to them, correct?
That is correct.
All right, and then they came down to your office?
That's correct.
All right, and you conducted, again, another recorded interview?
That's correct.
All right, and I think you said at that particular point in time is when they might have given you another copy or given you the video at that particular time?
So I know at that particular time she was stating that she had spoken to Ben Michael's mom and that she had some text messages. And I said, can you please send those to me?
Okay, do you recall whether or not you received those text messages?
Yes, they're in my case file.
Oh. Okay. Do you remember reviewing them in this particular case?
Yes,
Okay, but you're saying they're part of the actual case file?
they are.
Okay. As this investigation continued, you also reached out to the Bristol Police Department, correct?
I did.
Okay. I'm going to show you. What are we on? 14? 13. What has been marked? Defense 14? 13. Gosh. May I approach the witness?
Yes. The Bristol Buncombe County Social Services for records.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So one of your requests in that email was requesting information for any and all reports on Mr. Brian Elliott Joyce, correct?
That's correct.
And you also gave his alias, correct?
That's correct.
I guess he refers to that as his legal name, Benyamin Eliyahu.
That is his legal name.
Legal name, but he was born
Brian
Elliott
Joyce.
Joyce. Okay. And you provided his date of birth and referenced what the investigation was for, correct?
I did.
All right. And you also indicate that you sent an email to the Buncombe County Social Work Services office. And where's Buncombe County?
I believe it's in North Carolina.
Learned from those Asheville police reports, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you ultimately did receive information from both of those departments?
I did.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some of the other things that you did on the 14th of December. One of the things you did was you spoke to a young lady named Gabrielle Kuykendall, correct?
I did.
All right, and then you also spoke to another young lady named Brett Tabor, correct?
That's
Or
correct.
Tamar. All right, and actually after those conversations is when you generated those emails, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And the purpose for you when you spoke to Ms. Kuykendall was that you were concerned about an abuse aspect as far as Chloe goes. Is that what you communicated to Ms. Kuykendall?
Absolutely.
All right, and that you were interested in finding out the backstory, correct?
I wanted to know the context of the full relationship
All right, the full relationship with...
between Chloe and Benjamin.
Okay, but you also got, both of those phone calls were in fact recorded too, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and you called Ms. Kuykendall and were asking for the backstory specifically related to Chloe, correct?
That's correct.
But also with respect to Ms. Kuykendall, correct?
That's correct.
And that's based on information you had generated thus far in your investigation. That was where your investigation was leading at that point in time.
That's correct.
All right, and you specifically asked her that you wanted to hear about why she ended up leaving that relationship, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point in time, you told Ms. Kuykendall that Benjamin was not a suspect at that time.
He wasn't.
Okay, but that you believe that he could have played a part in what happened, so you were concerned about that, and that's why you wanted to talk to her.
That's correct.
All right, and that interview again was recorded.
That was recorded.
All right. I'm gonna go back to this. Let's bring up. Where are we at, John? I'm gonna move to admit number 13, Judge, the emails, tender as an exhibit.
Any objection to D13?
No.
D13 is admitted.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
All right, Detective Cruz. We'll get there eventually. All right, I'm showing you two different documents.
That's correct.
What is that? Just defense 14 for me, please.
It is a financial crimes enforcement network request for research on a specific individual.
Okay, and who are the specific individuals listed in that report?
Michael Benjamin and Chloe Driver, and then Christian Ministries Trust and Children of Christ Trust.
Okay. In that, is there identifying information with respect to both of those individuals?
There is.
Okay, is there identifying information with respect to the accounts or specific financial information you were seeking?
Yes.
Okay, I would at this time move to admit defense 14 and 15.
Is it two exhibits?
Yes, I did, I marked them separately.
Okay.
15 is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Analysis Center form. So this is a different form than the financial
Correct, but
crime
that's another
form.
one you generated on the same date and time?
That's correct.
All right, and whose names are on that one?
Brian Elliott Joyce or Benjamin.
Okay, and do you know what the dates of those requests were?
They would have been on the same date. Yeah, the same date as this one.
Okay, and I think that's December 14th?
That's correct.
Okay. And that this is just a process that you have to go through as a law enforcement agency to obtain sensitive information like financial information or that kind of thing. You just can't serve a subpoena on that kind of thing.
You cannot do that,
All right,
yes.
so you have to submit those forms to the GBI and let them kind of vet that information before they'll release that to you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. At this time, I'll move to tender those as exhibits.
No objection.
Events 14 and 15 are admitted.
All right, so this is just the page one, which is the face sheet with your information, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and part of this process, you actually have to get your supervisor to certify that they are in support of you doing this, correct?
That's correct.
And in order to do that, there's got to be some sort of basis or in the investigation to do that. Like you just can't,
I can't submit it on my own.
okay. And the investigative information in this particular case was sought for a criminal investigation, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And the subject information, as you've already told us, was that this was for Benyamin Eliyahu Ben Michael.
That's
And-
correct.
And you provided the identifying information that you had, and also known as, I think it's the Olorian Christ Trust.
Correct.
All right. And that's the name of the, one of the trusts that you would come across in your investigation, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And the next one is the, is Miss Drivers, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And there was also some additional information regarding these trusts that you would come across in your investigation, correct?
That's correct.
And then one of them included this Christian Ministries Trust,
Yes,
okay? And then the next one was the Children of Christ Trust, correct?
that's correct.
And they all have the same address. Did you notice that?
No, they didn't.
The
One
well,
was Tamiami Trail, and then this one was Bristol, Connecticut. That's Sarasota, Florida.
correct, but the
Jacksonville, Florida was, Bristol was for Chloe's driver's address, and then his address was in Clinton,
Okay,
Connecticut.
but they were all related to those trusts, correct? They had different addresses.
Different
related-
addresses,
depending
different
on which
trust
trust.
names
Okay, and different bank accounts that you could tell.
that I could tell.
Okay, and the one bank account that you were able to ascertain with respect to Mr. Ben Michael and Miss Driver was that Wells Fargo account that we talked about earlier, correct?
Correct,
And that account is the one that ended in the 6656, correct?
correct.
And that one was identified as the Children of Christ Trust, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and during your investigation in this matter, you had learned that one of the things Ms. Driver was saying was that Mr. Ben Michael had had her take out a loan, or like the economic COVID loan at this particular point in time. That was one of your questions.
That was correct.
One of the, I think 501c something that they were running as these spirituality nonprofits, whatever you want to call them.
Correct.
All right. And so your investigation led you to request those financial aspects because it was part of this case, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then we were shown some receipts earlier today regarding this Wells Fargo account. Well, let me ask you this while the state looks those over. Did you turned over those phones for the cell phone dumps with the sheriff's office, correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever review those reports from the phone dumps at all?
I might have.
Okay.
Again, it was 4 years ago, so I'm sorry
Okay.
if I don't remember.
You don't remember if those were part of it? Okay. All right. That's okay. Do you want me to mark them separately, or are you gonna, well, do we need to take them up individually, or?
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I'm marking as D16. This is why I told you you might need your reading glasses, so we'll test your sight.
I'll be okay.
All right.
Says Children of Christ Trust, Chloe A. Driver, TTE, Benjamin Ben Michael, TTE, Virginia. Account terms and conditions apply. And then they have a $98,600 balance, or actually minus $101,199.87, which leaves them $207.13.
Okay. And can you read what the last 4 digits of that account number were?
Sure, it's 6656.
Okay, so that Wells Fargo
Do you want me to
account-
read these two?
We'll get to that. in a
Okay,
second.
perfect.
So that Wells Fargo account that we were talking about earlier actually had Mr. Benjamin and Michael's name on that account as well, correct?
That's correct.
And it was under the Children of Christ Trust as well, correct?
That's correct.
All right. All right, so if you want to identify the next one?
This says Wells Fargo, account number 6656, available balance $99,907.90. And then it has obviously pending transactions right below it.
Okay, and on the bottom, can you indicate where, does it identify another trust associated?
It does. They are transferring from the Elorian Christ Trust $50,000. And it looks like 2 transactions, but it might just be one.
Okay, but what are the dates on those?
10/2/20. And then this one is an everyday checking from Wells Fargo, checking number 5702. Available balance of $544.79 on that way to save one. And then the 6656 everyday checking $99,907.90.
Okay, so that 6656 account has both of their names on it under a trust.
Under a trust.
Okay. Where is the... Judge, I'll move to admit defense 16 at this time and request to publish.
Is that what you just ordered?
Yes, ma'am.
No, no objection.
Tried to move that up there, but that's the information that you just read?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then again, that's the everyday checking that ended in the 6656 that we were talking about?
That's correct.
At 10:05 p.m. And is this, with the wiretap, what was the phone number? Do you recall now the phone number associated with Mr. Garlington? Or the last 4 digits?
I can't. I know Mr. Sumlin's ended in, I think, 8711, and I just knew the other one was Mr. Garlington.
I want to direct your attention to March 11th, 2022 at 10:05 p.m. from 27 seconds to 3 minutes and 38 seconds. Let me ask you this. Hold on. Excuse me. After Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford were killed, were there Instagram posts disrespecting both Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford?
There were several.
And did you capture those those Instagram posts that were being posted?
Yes,
Right. And why did you capture those?
just because of how inflammatory they were. I knew that they were going to be important because they were very, very disrespectful and inflammatory.
And have you had an opportunity to look at some of those posts prior to your testimony today?
I have.
All right. And with social media, if posts are inflammatory, in your experience as a gang investigator, does that flame any potential beef or anything that may occur that may occur.
Absolutely.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 456 VV, 457 VV, and 462 VV. Do you recognize those pictures?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
Two are going to be from like fake accounts that were made to troll people in the wake of their death, and one is from an individual that I know from working in Atlanta.
And do those appear to be fair and accurate depictions of images that you grabbed, again, in March of 2022?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state would like to admit 456 VV, 457 VV, and 462 VV into evidence.
Admitted.
And permission to publish. Now, looking at this exhibit, is this one of the fake Instagram accounts that you were referencing?
That's one of the ones that we couldn't identify who it belonged to, but it was very, very vocal about the disrespect.
Okay. And what does the post say?
New op pack just came in.
And in your experience as a gangbangers, have you heard the term op?
I have.
Okay. And what is your understanding of op?
It's short for opposition or rival.
And do you know, sitting here today, what day you screenshotted this particular post?
It would have been in the days immediately after the death of Mr. McMillan, and Mr. Ford.
Okay. And we're looking at a document with the screen grabs, help refresh your memory as to the dates of when you captured this post.
It would.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a copy of this document here to help refresh your memory?
I do.
All right. If you would take that out, look at it as soon as your memory's refreshed, just look up and let me know.
That would be March 11th, around 11:30 p.m.
And about what time did Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford pass away?
It was maybe several hours prior to that. So they got killed at 3 a.m. on March 11th, go through the day, and then that night at 11:30 p.m. this got posted.
We'll go to the next post. Now, looking at exhibit 457 BB, are you familiar with the Instagram handle 1ABG_Big Nick_?
Yes.
How are you familiar with that Instagram handle?
I'm familiar with this individual. His name is Nicholas Johnson.
And does he have a nickname?
Usually it's Fat Nick or Big Nick, depending on what he changes his handle to. But he's a YFN member.
And why was this, what if any significance did this post have?
This was also posted several hours after Mr. Ford and Mr. McMillan had been killed, and he posted a song on top of him, just moving around, saying, and the song was entitled Slime and Chalk, which is referring to, like typically in the old crime scenes where they'd outline the body in chalk. So this was inflammatory in that nature, where he's posting this kind of, just making sure everybody saw it.
And when did you capture this post?
The capture time reads 3 hours ago, so if I can refer to the sheet just to get the posting time.
Yes.
It was posted at 11:20 p.m. that day, following the murders, so it means that it was captured at 11:20 p.m., which means 8:20 p.m. it was posted.
Go to the next exhibit. And while that's pulling up, have you ever heard of the term smoking an op pack?
I have.
Okay. What is your understanding when you've heard that terminology?
An op pack is a play on words, like when you talk about a pack of loud or like marijuana or drugs. So now when they come in, they'll say, we're smoking on this person that's dead. It's just another way of disrespecting the opposition when they get killed. So saying a new op pack just came in, they're smoking on these people. It's very, very common among gang language, especially when there's a murder that takes place.
And now looking at 462 VB, Joey _ Hurst 24, was that an actual page or was that a trolling page?
That was a page that was trolling pretty.
Sustained.
Okay. Were you familiar with that page?
I was not.
Okay. Were you familiar with anyone being associated with that page?
I was not.
Sitting here, do you recall what the picture that's in the caption, what that said?
With the picture itself? Or
No, not
the profile
the
picture.
profile picture.
I can't see. It seems like a drawing or something of some sort.
And again, was this an example of some of the inflammatory posts that you were seeing that you captured?
Yes.
Okay. We can take a look. Now, I want to go back to the wiretap call. Permission to publish.
You may.
And for the record, again, it's going to be 27 seconds and 3:38 seconds.
Chris name.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
that shit, that was crazy, boy.
Man, I was just going through what call when I had them posts. He told me, man, tell Corey, I said, welcome home. I told you that.
Yeah, that what I got there. That was like, man, that shit, that just too crazy.
But that's a fool. Well, I'm like, damn, boy.
They hit him more on this.
I don't know. See, I think he the one that got shot in the head. I don't, like, everybody been said he had and died first. Like, that's what they were saying at first. They were just like, bro was in critical condition for a minute.
I heard
But
he got hit in the head.
Yeah, but Roger had and goddamn told me what happened to him. He had them DM me like, man, bro just died too. So we just turn on the video chat shit. But he was like, Roger said it came from Summer Hill, but Quay they said they got into it with when they was at Chit Chat, they got into it with them henchmen niggas.
Who nigga?
Man, I think them niggas, all I rent them folk, man. You know, on for me going back and forth, they gonna answer.
All I rent?
Nah, not him, but like his little young nigga.
Oh yeah, I heard that little hits me shit.
Yeah, Quay say when B Slime just had the show, on for him, B Slime them got down, rushed to the car to get the file, some shit. They hadn't got into it, nigga.
Yeah, that's crazy right now.
My cousin just called him, so he know what he told him to pull up. He got down, he know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finna pull up and goddamn see what the hell going on.
So what the hell he wore coming from the core?
Yeah, man, they went to look cord, man.
Oh yeah, so I thought he went to traffic or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought, cause everybody going to traffic. You like I be telling that nigga let go to traffic. But I ain't even saying that to him last night. I seen him putting the clothes on. 'Cause I
Knew their mom up by 5 in the morning.
yeah,
They like somebody got shot in the car, but they ain't really showing that.
yeah.
I get on Instagram by 6, 7, like maybe by 7, 8 of them somebody. I'm like, damn, that way they was.
Hey, yeah. Well, I ain't know that, man. Them folk blowing my phone up.
You know, I said, them folks, them folks were on, them folks, they ain't see none of them niggas in the car.
Nah,
Like, they think that
man.
was them two.
Yeah, it was just them two, I think. I don't know, but I ain't heard nothing, bro. I ain't called nobody.
Man, that nigga running, man. What the hell wrong with this nigga, man? That nigga walk so goddamn fast.
I ain't talking nobody but Ed B.
Oh, LB.
Yeah, you know he on though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, LB just laying low.
Nah, he with his folk.
Okay. Yeah, the girl in charge is tripping, man. I called his phone, somebody, this ain't his number. Yeah,
For real.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
man.
that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we started playing at 3:37. Want to ask you a few questions about that call before the next call. Were you familiar with Demekion Garlington's voice?
Yes.
Okay. And was Demekion Garlington one of the individuals on the phone call?
Yes.
Right. During the call, you heard them talk about umfunk. Is that the same umfunk that you talked about earlier in the pictures?
Yes.
All right. Did you hear them speak about umfunk getting into it with the henchman?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the henchman?
I am.
How?
I have worked some investigations and spoken in person with their leader of that gang.
Okay. And with the henchmen, do they have any alliances?
They do.
And what is one of their alliances?
YFN.
All right. Now, you heard them talk about they were coming from Lacora. Are you familiar with Lacora?
I am.
Okay. What is Lacora?
It's a nightclub lounge on Metropolitan Parkway here in Atlanta.
Okay. And through your investigation of working the Christian McMiller, Darius Ford homicide, are you familiar if there was an event at Lacora on the night before they passed away?
There was.
Okay. And based on your investigation, were Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford at that location prior to their death?
Yes.
Now, there came a point in the portion of the audio that we listened to where the sound went down. Do you remember hearing that?
Yes.
Okay. Is that an example of the minimization that you were referencing earlier, that if it's something that isn't about criminal activity, it will be minimized and then you will pick the call back up?
Yes.
Okay. In listening to that call, do you know who Mr. Garlington was speaking to?
Yes.
Okay, who?
It's a gentleman that goes by the name Dwoskin Wright. I know him as Watt.
You said
Watt, W-O-T.
that's his nickname?
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you familiar with Mr. Wright?
Early on in my career, I did a good bit of work on the 30 Deep Criminal Street Gang, and he's a member of that gang.
And did you hear them mention SB on this call?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with that nickname?
Yes.
And who is that nickname associated with?
Mr. Shannon Stillwell.
All right. I want to publish our next call, which is on March 12th, 22 at 12:49 p.m. from 00 to 1:12 p.m. 00 to 1:12 minutes.
Yo,
What the hell you got going on?
shit, just got up.
Hey, anybody asked, we went and looked like soon in the midnight. Anybody just said we went and looked for that motherfucker. We couldn't find it.
Okay.
Don't tell nobody.
Yeah, I know. Well, what the hell you at?
Leaving the room.
Leaving the room.
Yeah.
What you finna get up?
Huh?
What you finna get into?
Shit, same old shit.
Same shit.
Same shit.
I'm saying, what you
Someone told me he gonna come pick me up. Shit, that was going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next time I meet him, Rottlo. I said, man, Rottlo ain't getting no cold, man.
Yeah.
I tried that shit yesterday with a nigga I don't got down though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to stop at 1:11 p.m. Again, is that Mr. Garlington on the call?
Yes,
Okay. And did you recognize the voice of who he is speaking to?
that would be Mr. Silla.
Right. And in that call, the Mr. Stillwell said, don't tell anyone we went to go looking.
Yes,
Okay. Or we went to go looking, don't tell anyone.
it sounds like that's kind of hard to hear, but that's what it appears to sound like.
Okay. And they mentioned on that call, did you hear the reference to Big Nick?
I did.
All right. And are you familiar with that name?
I am.
Is that the same Big Nick, to your understanding, if Mr. Garlington and Mr. Stillwell are talking, do you know which Big Nick they could be referencing?
They would be referencing Nicholas Carter.
Okay. How are you familiar with Nicholas Carter?
I know Nicholas Carter to be an older member of the gang associated with 2830 Waters Road.
And you said an older member of the gang?
Correct.
Which gang?
YSL.
And you said you know him to be associated with 2830 Waters Road?
Correct.
Okay. To your knowledge, how is he associated with 2830 Waters Road?
I remember him being arrested at that location during a narcotic search warrant back in 2014.
And again, he is different from Fat Nick, who we just talked about earlier, also who calls himself Big Nick, who's with YFN.
Correct.
All right. Next, we're going to publish March 13th, 2022 at 1:23 a.m. from 4:40 into the call until the end of the call.
Yeah, for real now, right?
Bro, D, is you sad about Matt Payne for real?
Man, I'm DB on Saturday here, bro.
I know.
That's why I just had to come drink, bro.
That's why I said I ain't called you. Dad said, D, okay? I said, I text. I ain't want to call him. He said, yeah, he ain't answer. I called him.
Yeah, that fucked up. That shit got me hurt, bro. I fucked with bro.
Yeah, that shit put me on. So I know dude sad about that.
Yeah, man.
Damn, big poppy little shit too.
I know it, bro. Damn.
That shit crazy. That part had said they had like 45 gun shells out there.
45 gun shell?
Yeah.
Just know, Cash, we gonna get some get back. We already get.
D, you better show that down somewhere.
I am, but still, bro, like, I am gonna sit down. Listen, I'm gonna sit down, bro. But
Boy, you better sit your ass down somewhere, baby.
I am, but bro, nigga think it's shit the game I'm out here playing.
Mm-mm.
For real, bro. Like I already going through some shit before that. Like it like all type of trying. They got money on my head, bro. Like, and I still just be going places. You see, I don't be worried about shit, bro. Cause I be prepared. I be prepared for shit. If a nigga pay with me, that they know that shit ain't gonna be easy.
Oh, baby.
I
I'm
just got to a
sure.
shootout early. On
Why the fuck you get into a shootout, D?
because it was a car looking strange. And don't say that gun there.
Why would you? Oh my god.
Because the car, they were 3 deep with hoods on, so I had to shoot it. I don't know. On the day, it was the car. The day on Cleveland. On Cleveland, it was a car. I know it, bro. Yeah, you do.
D, you need to,
Yeah, yeah, you right. Yeah, that had them niggas follow me. That how they follow me from Pico. Yeah, I would have. Mm-hmm. That's what you doing up at 131. Yeah, phone. I didn't talk to phone. I talked to him. I told him for the call. He just said, you know what we on every day. Hello. What you doing up
yeah.
at 131?
Right, we're gonna pause it at 7 minutes and 30 seconds into the call. Do you know who Mr. Garland was speaking with?
Without seeing though.
Okay. Did you hear when Mr. Garland said on DB and then he kind of explained something?
Yes,
Okay. Are you familiar with or have you heard that initial DB?
I have.
Okay. And what do you understand or DB, those initials to me?
They're referencing Derek Benning. He's one of their fellow gang members that was killed years ago.
Okay. And earlier when we talked about kind of the timeline after March 11th, there was a shooting on Cleveland Avenue. And you heard it on the wiretap. Was this the call that you were referencing?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was there any police report associated with any shots fired around March 12th, 2022?
Yes.
All right. I'm now going to publish March 13th, 2022 at 5:49 p.m. 2 minutes and 10 seconds to 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think they died like right there on the scene. That man, he was in critical condition, probably like for few hours. Yeah, and I got shot in the head. I think he was at brain dead or something. I don't know what happened, but wow, that shit, oh boy. No, they said nigga killed or murdered. Just made a little song that somebody sent me that. He just made the song. They sent me that. So I don't know. They trying to act like they did it. Yeah. And got some more than claim that shit. They don't even know them though, but they be okay.
Hey, who?
He okay, the nigga who claimed.
I'm in that particular portion, did you hear Demikion Garlington speak of someone making a song?
Yes, Kel Omerta.
Say that again.
Kel Omerta.
And are you familiar with that name, Kel Omerta?
I am.
How are you familiar with that name?
That is Markel Wright. He's a member of the PFK criminal street gang.
And Markel, right, does PFK have any alliances?
They do.
Now, in doing your work, we spoke earlier today about music and gang investigations. In your experience, have you found with gangs that there are times that gang members do music?
Yes.
And have you found in your experience that sometimes gang members use music to promote their gangs?
Yes, often.
And here, when Mr. Garlington is saying, you know, what did you say his name was? Kello Murder?
Yes.
Okay. Made a song. Was that something uncommon to you as a gang investigator of an opposition making a song about a potential death or bragging about a potential death?
No, they do it often.
And did you hear when Mr. Garlington said some other dudes might be claiming it as well?
Yes.
Did you see any social media posts throughout your investigation or while you were looking at social media of different groups claiming to have done the murder of Mr. Ford and Mr. McMillan?
Not really. It was mostly YFN and then pages that were trolling, like pages that were just popping up out of nowhere, trolling.
I want to next publish March 13th, 2022 at 6:41 p.m. from 00 to 2 minutes and 9 seconds.
Hello.
What's up?
Yeah, what's him?
What's up, man?
What the hell going on?
Oh, shit, I just got a phone with you, baby.
What you talking about?
Huh?
What you talking about?
Oh, shit, I was just, he was asking what happened.
What happened?
They saying different shit. Just,
Which one makes sense to you?
huh?
Which one makes sense to you?
You said which one what?
Makes sense to you?
Which one makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm tell the kid. I'm tell the kid. I don't want to, on the phone shit. They be recording, make
Nah,
make
you
sense.
ain't gotta say much. You ain't gotta say much.
Yeah. I told him.
I just wanna know.
Yeah. I already know. I'm tell her. I'm tell her what they said. What the streets saying. Like they send it. They just send. Huh?
Keep on what you saying to get away.
Nah, they keep sending different. They keep sending different pictures. They got now the nigga who claimed it, the nigga who out on Instagram claiming it, don't nobody even know him. Yeah, he say he supposed to be PLK or some shit. I seen on phone last night. I seen on phone last night. We ain't even got down. We ain't even really just talk like that. Everybody was leaving. I had one up there with 21 now. Little Tip had an all black party. I had that one up there. But I'm walking out, seeing funk at the door. On that shit. We on? I'm like, I'm finna call you. Yeah.
She's right there. Were you familiar with the person that Mr. Garland was speaking to?
From the voice, it sounds like Kenneth Copeland.
And had you yourself had discussions or conversations with Mr. Copeland throughout the course of your career?
Multiple, yes.
Okay. Now, back in 2022, do you know if Mr. Copeland was incarcerated?
I believe he was.
Are you aware of the relationship between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Garlington?
Yes.
How are you aware of that relationship?
They were good friends.
And to your knowledge, in 2022, were they good friends?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. In 2015, were they good friends?
I believe so, yes.
And is Shannon Jackson a part of that friend group between Mr. Copeland, Mr. Garlington, and Mr. Jackson, to your knowledge?
Overruled.
Yes.
Now, between March 11th and March 14th, 2022, did you see any members or individuals associated or friends with Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford making posts that appeared to be in response to some of the offensive YSL posts?
Yes.
Okay. And did you capture those posts?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to view those posts in preparation for your trial?
Yes.
I mean, for your trial, for this trial. All right, permission to approach, Your Honor. I'm going to show you what's been marked as 464 VV, 455 VV, 446 VV, 475 VV, and 458 VV. Tell me if you recognize those exhibits. 464 VV, 445 VV, 446 VV, 475 VV, and 458 VV. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And how do you recognize those?
Those are some of the posts that were captured during March, or I know one was definitively March 2022. I'd need to refer to check the others.
Okay. And do they appear to be fair and accurate depiction of the images that you captured in March of 2022?
Yes.
You're on this time, and I'll try to do it in order.
Thank you.
The stabilized emit 445 VV, 446 VV, 458 VV, 464 VV, and 475 VV.
Okay. I had thought I heard 454 at one point. That's not one of them.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. 446, 445, 446, 458, 464, 475.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's repetitive.
Thank you. And permission to publish.
Ma'am.
We're going to start with 464 VV. And looking at your chart, will it refresh your memory as to when you screen grabbed this post?
The capture time was March 13th at 5:47 p.m. And the photo says 2 minutes prior to that.
And is this on Instagram? Is this what is called an Instagram story?
Correct.
Okay. And are Instagram stories only in existence for 24 hours?
Correct. They're posted to your profile. They don't go to your main profile. They go to a separate section. They're up for 24 hours, or if you want to delete it before that. And with that post, you can actually take a look and see who's viewed the story.
Okay. And are you familiar with the Instagram handle?
I am.
And what is the Instagram handle?
Fortrite_the world. TV world, I'm sorry.
And who was your understanding of whose Instagram post that is?
Javon Fleetwood.
And is that the same Javon Fleetwood we spoke of earlier regarding the shooting in May of 2019?
Yes.
Okay. The same individual with the YSL tattoo on his face?
Yes.
Okay. What does the caption say?
F, middle finger emoji, being safe, you got to stay dangerous.
Now looking at 445 VV. Looking at 445 VV, who's the poster of the post? Or what Instagram account posting it?
That would be the account associated with Shannon Jackson or Shannon Stillwell.
Okay. And do you know what is the date of this post?
Is it okay to refer to the chart?
Yes.
The date would be March 9th at 9:48 p.m. But it was captured 7 hours prior, so it would be like 2 in the afternoon.
Just speak up.
Sorry. It was the capture date is March 9th at 9:48 p.m. But the post said 7 hours ago, so that would be around 2:48.
And
March 9th.
And is that before Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford were killed?
Yes.
All right. Now looking at State's Exhibit 446 VV. And is that from that same account associated with Mr. Stillwell Jackson?
It is.
Okay. And what does the post say?
That racial expletive, y'all scared of me.
And is there an emoji?
The 100 emoji and like the strong, like it's for real, like it's.
And what is the date of that post?
March 9th at 9 prior, so it was posted around 6:48 p.m.
Okay. And was that the same day as the post we just observed?
Yes.
All right. Now I want to show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 458 VV. And looking at State's Exhibit 458 VV, is that Stillwell, Mr. Stillwell?
Yes.
Right. And what does the caption say?
Ain't gonna be the only one crying.
And when was the date and time of this post?
That was on March 11th, around 11:23 p.m.
And on March 11th, around 11:23 p.m., was that around the same time or approximate time that 12 Atlanta was shot up?
About 2 hours after.
And is that the shooting in which a YFN associate was shot in the head?
Yes.
Now, after you hear when Mr. Garlington on the last call said that there were people claiming to have done it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see any posts that piqued your interest of anyone that could be interpreted as claiming to have done the killing of Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford?
Objection, Your Honor.
And I'll rephrase, Your Honor. Did you find any posts of note to you as a part of your investigation regarding Mr. Kelvin Watts?
I did.
Okay. And that post, what was of note to you in that post?
There were Can you
Show himself.
I did.
Okay. And first, when was that picture captured by you?
On March 12th at 7:24 a.m.
And why was that picture of note to you?
because of the emojis and the cap and the people present in the photo.
And have you had an opportunity?
Helpful to the investigation and prosecution of the case.
Okay. How long have you been involved in this case?
Since the incident date of December the 8th of 2020.
Okay. And what was your involvement in that case on December the 8th?
So the Special Victims Unit was created in October of 2020, and I was assigned as the investigator to the unit. Oftentimes, law enforcement will reach out to us with certain cases, and they reached out to us in this case, and so members of our office traveled to the Canton Police Department on the incident date.
On December the 8th?
Yes.
Okay. What was happening at the police department when you went there on December the 8th?
They were conducting the interviews. All parties were brought to the Canton Police Department.
Participate in those interviews or just and have you been consistently assigned as the investigator on this case with the district attorney's office since that date?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you mentioned that sort of one of your responsibilities as an investigator with the district attorney's office is to review the evidence that gets provided, including cell phone extractions. Did you do that in this? We talked about Ms. Driver's cell phone. States Exhibit 115, cell phone extraction from that device?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I collected those from the Canton Police Department, their evidence department.
Okay, and we heard testimony from Lindsay Harris, the digital forensics expert who extracted that device. But when you are going through the device, are you familiar with what's known as the UFED reader?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
So the UFED reader, it actually allows us to open the cell phone extraction. It actually allows us to search for certain terms and create reports like searched items, text messages. We can narrow down the search and pull and create reports.
Okay. And so when you were starts from that device, I think we previously heard there was an 84,000 page report generated at one point by Ms. Harris. But as it relates to narrowing it to a more relevant scope, did you have sort of a starting point for what you were looking at?
I did. So in Detective Cruz's report, part of my job is also to review all the reports. And in reviewing those, she had completed a search, and she notated in her report that she had searched the cell phones, and she located some terms that were searched in the phone. So what I did is I took the phone, and Detective Cruz, she
Okay, and when you use the term pull the reports, are you mean generate like a smaller report with specific criteria pulled from the phone?
Yes, it forms a PDF, a viewable PDF form.
Okay. I'm gonna hand you. Members witness? Yes. I'm gonna hand you state exhibit 128 through 132. Can you look at these and tell me whether you recognize those documents?
Terms.
Okay. And these condensed data that you pulled from the phone extraction from Chloe Driver's device here states 115.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would tender states 128 through 132. No objection.
All right, 128 through 132 are admitted.
Like published states exhibit 128.
Go ahead.
All right, Jarrett. What are we looking at here?
This is an extraction report that I generated. And so the searched item was kill. And so this is the report that the UFED reader generated.
Okay, so you were able to go into that UFED reader, do a search term for the word kill, and these were the things that populated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in item number 1, the letter searched on her phone.
Killing somebody to save them.
Okay, and what was the date of that?
November the 25th of 2020.
Okay, and then in 2 and 3 we see, okay. And then in line 4, what was searched?
Killing because the world is fake.
Age report that you generated that really.
As far as the searched items, yes, ma'am.
Okay, you said as far as the searched items, are there different places in the phone or categories of content you can go look in?
There are on the left-hand side when you're doing or you're searching the phone. There are different categories that you can search within. You can search within text messages. You can search within web history searches, and you can also search in searched items. So this was inside the searched items in the phone.
Okay, so you narrowed the word kill in the things that had been searched on that phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are we looking at in States Exhibit 129?
This is an extraction from the cell phone. Neck was the key term used. Detective Cruz had notated in her report, so that's why I searched for neck.
Okay, and in line item 1, what do we see was searched and on what date?
How to snap a neck, and that was on December the 2nd of 2020.
Okay, and had that same term been searched on prior dates?
Yes, also on November the 30th of 2020.
Okay. And then go to publish and tell the,
So like I explained earlier, this was the search within the web history rather than the searched items. Web history to search for that.
okay, in line 1, is that a Google search?
It is.
And what did she search?
It was
So in line 2, what was the sort of website that was visited in relation to the search term neck?
It's www.quora.com. And it returned how hard is it to kill someone by twisting their neck, and then it says movies make it look really easy. How much force would be needed? That was as a question.
And what was the date of that?
That was December the 2nd of 2020.
Okay. And then item 3, is that a similar web page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then item Quora website you already referenced?
It is. It appears the date is different.
Okay, that was visited on multiple dates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me go back to the first one. We have the first one being December 2nd, in line item 2.
20.
Okay, and item 4?
December the 1st, 2020.
And item 5?
It is November the 30th of 2020.
Okay, and item 6?
November the 30th of 2020.
Okay.
As
And
well as 7.
item 7 is, what is that?
That is a Google search.
Okay, another Google search of how to snap a neck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And item 8?
November the 30th of 2020. How to snap
At the bottom.
These appear to be links to Walmart. I'm not sure, maybe the word neg may be embedded.
In the item number?
It could be an item related to a neck.
Okay. Those were specific to a key term. Are you also able, in going through the UFED reader of the larger phone extraction, to narrow searched items based upon a particular date range?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and were you generate a report of all searches on her device for a particular date range?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the date range that you generated?
I believe that was November the 1st of 2020 to the incident date of December the 8th of 2020.
Okay, so in State's Exhibit 131, is this everything that her searched terms between November 1st of 2020 till the incident date of December 8th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does this larger report contain the searched items? Are they contained in? November 1st. All right. And in State's Exhibit 61, which is the all the search terms, were there search terms that might be looking to travel in any way?
Yes, ma'am. They were searches about a bus ticket, traveling with a child. I don't know if child was the actual term. It might have been baby, or it may have had her age, but.
Okay. publish. This is State's Exhibit 131. With item number, search item 547, what was she searching?
547 was 12 tribes, community, single, woman with baby.
Okay, and what was the date of that?
That was November the 22nd of 2020.
Item 551, what was she searching?
What does the Bible say about having more than one wife?
Okay. And in item 557,
Can God forgive me for being with a married man? Excuse me.
okay. And in item 561. Right. Were you asked to generate a report specifically with regard to anything involving CBD?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 132. Items, so these things that would have been searched on Mr. Ice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Does CBD work first time? And that's September the 12th of 2020.
Okay, and item number 2?
Does CBD work? 20.
Okay, and 3?
Does CBD help with anger issues? September the 12th, 2020.
All right, and item 4?
Does
Item 5?
breastfeeding with CBD oil experience? September the 8th of 2020.
Okay, and number 6?
Breastfeeding with CBD oil experience, September 8th of 2020.
And are the next?
Appears. Yes.
And then the item 10?
CBD oil and therapy for mental illness.
Okay, and do you know why that does with a date in this extraction report?
I'm not sure exactly. It could be, it's my understanding it could be various reasons. Maybe the breeder didn't import it over. Could have been something that was deleted. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay. And then the item searched after that?
How long is CBD in breast milk?
Okay, and number 12?
Does CBD help with depression?
Okay, and then finally number 13?
I breastfed baby on CBD.
Okay. CBD in this case, I think we asked Mr. Spillers yesterday, States 87. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is this located? Seen photos next to Ms. Driver,
Yes,
where Ms.
ma'am.
Driver and the baby were? Okay. And Did you at any time request for any testing to be conducted on that?
Yes, I did.
And who did you request that of?
I contacted the Cherokee Multi-Agency Narcotics Squad, and Agent McNeely came over to conduct a field test of the substance.
Okay. And what did you ask him to test it for?
But we wanted to have it tested.
Okay. And did he test it?
He did conduct the test.
We're stipulating to this, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, we've stipulated to the admissibility of States Exhibit 133 and publishing States 133. What did that substance test positive for?
It field tested positive for CBD.
Okay. And was your request of him to just test it for substance it was?
Yes, the field test tests for multiple substances.
I want to speak to you about sort of your role as an investigator taking this case over post-arrest. Are you aware of when Chloe Driver was? And is part of your role at the district attorney's office to monitor phone communications of any inmates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when did you become aware of, well, let me back up. How does the phone system in the Cherokee County Detention Center work?
So they use a system called Fusion. And so when someone comes in, when they're ready, booking, and these are recorded, but they're at no cost. Once it's determined that a person is not being released for various reasons, what they'll do is they'll be placed in a different location. There are other phones throughout the jail at the Adult Detention Center. And those phones require a code. It's like allows them to call out. So the Fusion allows us to go in and search calls underneath the inmate's name. We can also search by number.
And are booked in. Those are all from those. And when did you become aware of the first phone calls of Ms. Driver that were linked to an account associated with Ms. Driver?
So periodically, I would be checking the calls under her account, and on December the on February the 22nd, I was able to locate a phone number for her, or a phone number that she had called. The actual call was made on the 18th, so 4 days prior.
Okay. And so on the 22nd, you located a phone call she had made on what date?
February the 18th of 2021.
Okay. So February the 18th, her own account?
Yes.
And are you familiar with who she was calling?
Yes, I did not recognize the number, but I did recognize the voice. And I was able to determine that was Benjamin Michael.
Okay. And what was the date of that call?
February the 18th of 2021.
Okay. And in monitoring her phone communication with Mr. Ben Michael on that February 18th, 2021 call, did you, once you identified that phone number, you said you weren't familiar with the phone number, you were familiar with the voice. How were you familiar with his voice?
the next of kin to the victims, and we had done that on occasion.
Okay. And after you identified that phone number being associated with him and a call from her account, what did you do next?
I then went in and searched the number, which is another option that we can do.
Okay. And so when you got a phone number that you could search, you saw that there were additional calls made from the booking area that weren't associated with her PIN?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you listen to those calls?
I did listen to those calls.
And were those calls between Chloe Driver and Benyamin Ben Michael?
Yes, they were.
And the phone calls that you listened to from the booking area, what were the dates of those phone calls?
21.
Of 2021, okay. And in listening to the phone calls from everything you looked at from that phone number that you identified as being associated with first phone call you could locate between the two of them, February 8th of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you listened to those phone calls from booking, did you develop any concerns?
I did. So she was having a conversation with him, been contacting him on another line. During that conversation, she referenced a work phone, another area of the jail that was not recorded or monitored.
Okay. And on that February 8th, 2021 call, you indicated already that was the first recorded one you could find. Was it apparent from their communication that they had had other communication since she'd been in custody?
It was clear that they had been communicating.
Okay. And what was it that made you believe she may be communicating with him on an unrecorded or unmonitored line?
There were additional calls that she also made on February the 13th of 2021. And so the conversation that she had on the 8th, and then on the other dates, the phone for an hour or so, and she would talk about how staff would step away. And it appeared that that was when she was able to utilize that.
And did you alert the jail to your concerns at that point when you discovered that?
I did. I communicated with the sheriff's office on February the 22nd of 2021.
Okay. And what was the result of that?
It's my understanding that the number was blocked, and she was not, and her privileges were taken away.
Understanding of why she was permitted to use an unmonitored?
Requested that she be allowed to contact her mom and her attorney on the unmonitored line. And only those two. And then it was approved by the jail staff that she be able to do that.
Okay. And when you and Benyamin Ben Michael, those privileges were taken away?
That is my understanding.
Okay. After that occurred, you indicated that number was blocked. What was that phone number that you first...
My notes.
Yes, of course.
Okay. The first number was 84.
How many calls did she make to him on that phone number?
There were 33 calls to that number.
Okay. And what was the date range of those calls?
February the 8th of 2021 to February the 22nd of 2021, which I believe the number was blocked, and there were no additional calls to that number at that time.
Okay. So in a 2-week period, she made 33 calls to that number?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then after you contacted the jail and they blocked that number, what does it mean to have a number blocked? What is the significance of that in terms of whether it can be called?
The number's blocked throughout the facility. They're able to go in and block a number from being called anywhere within the facility. So just understand that you probably already know that no one can call into the jail. no one can call in. So the inmates have to call out. That's the only communication as far as calls.
Do they have to put in their PIN that associates that call with them?
They do, as long as they're in populated or not in the booking area.
Okay. And apart from that phone number that Ms. Driver was utilizing to contact Mr. Benyamin.
Yes, I was.
Okay, and what was the second number you identified her contacting him on? Okay. And how many phone calls did she place to him on that phone number?
There were 5 calls.
Okay, and what was the date range of those calls?
That was February the 8th of 2021 to February 23rd of 2021.
Okay. And communicating with him on?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what were those?
There are 3 others. 757-392-6370.
Is that phone number significant or relate to any parties in this case?
It does. That number is Jessica Kafigian's.
Okay. The other wife of Benyamin?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the same phone number that she called 911 from in this
It
case?
is. It's also the same number that she provided to law enforcement.
Okay. And how many phone calls did Ms. Driver place to Ms. Kafigian's phone number to speak to Mr. Benyamin?
7.
Okay. And what was the date range of those phone calls?
March 30th of 2021 to March 31st of 2021.
Okay. And did you locate any other phone numbers that she had utilized to contact him?
Yes, I did.
Be for an inmate to utilize different numbers to reach someone after a number has been blocked.
Well, they're still trying to make contact with that person, so they utilize different numbers to reach out to them.
Do you know how many numbers Mr. Benyamin in the jail blocked?
I believe there were 2 that I was aware of.
Okay. And as it relates to, what is the last phone number you told us?
20.
Does that phone number come back to anybody associated in this case?
Sarah. Styles.
Right. And is that the phone number she utilized to call 911 in this case?
Yes, it is, as well as provided to law enforcement.
All right. And how many phone calls did Ms. Driver make to Mr. Benyamin on that phone?
54.
Okay. And what was the date range of those calls?
April the 5th of 2022 to April the 14th of 2022.
Okay. So in a 9-day period, she made 54 calls to him. 54 calls during that 9-day period made on her account?
No, they were not.
Whose account were they made on?
Brindley Peppers.
Okay. Was that would someone use another inmate's PIN to communicate with someone?
To avoid detection.
When you would go into the system and search calls made by Chloe Driver, would these phone numbers made to Benyamin Ben Michael under Brindley Pepper's account, would those populate?
No, they would not. They would just come up under Brindley Pepper name.
Okay. Able to locate any from any other numbers?
Yes.
To any other numbers?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that number?
47.
Okay. And how many phone calls were made by Ms. Driver to that phone number to Mr. Benyamin Ben Michael?
518.
Okay. And what was the date range of those 518 phone calls?
April the 20th of 2020. 22 to February the 5th,
From the first phone,
5th of 2023.
so about approximately 2 years after Hannah died?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was the total number of phone calls that she placed to him in that 2-year period?
617.
Okay. The last phone number to him, how many different inmates accounts did she use to accomplish those phone calls?
6 different inmates.
Were any of them her?
No, ma'am.
Calls that were made February of 23. Are you aware of the dates in which Ms. Driver was evaluated?
To a degree,
Yes, ma'am.
based on storage of the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
And contacts,
Yes, ma'am.
including like locations of, when they've used the Apple Maps or whatever. All of that is contained in that report, correct?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct.
And it includes stuff that's even been deleted, correct?
Sometimes, yes, ma'am.
So it's never really permanently report at least, if the item had been deleted, if it pulls it in the report, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, it also includes all the, images that they generated with their camera, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any images they may have downloaded from the internet, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and videos as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And one of those reports that is generated is what we call the installed applications one. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm going to show you, and I'm not tendering it as an exhibit because it's already been admitted, pages 4014, 4015, and 4016 of Ms. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
All right. With respect to each one that I gave you, each notation, can you tell me what applications were installed and what date those were? Or do you want me to highlight it a little bit for you?
Tape a call.
Yes, the first one is called
Tape a call.
Okay, and what date was that installed?
Purchase date was December the 1st of 2020.
Okay, and what about number 2?
My second line, calls and texts. Easy voice recorder. That's November, or excuse me. That's October the 24th, 2020.
Okay, so it generates a report based in that cell, right? You're correct.
Ma'am.
All right, generally this is that there were other searches done by Ms. Driver that you were not necessarily asked.
I did go through the phone and
So you would agree with me that if it was generated as in the overall picture, that it was included was an accurate reflection of what other topics she made, or things disagree with that related to mental health or the event that we're here for today. Is that a fair assessment?
No, that's correct.
Okay. There's also searches in here about things about parenting, correct?
There is, yes, ma'am.
There's there's one about failing at sleep training for 1-year-olds in September of 2020. Do you recall seeing any of those?
Not that one, but
Okay.
I agree.
Agree if it's
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
report that it
Yes.
is what it is. Okay. Also ones about, conditions of the child, like hives, or doing sort of research to take care of the child.
I do recall that one, yes, ma'am.
Okay. She also did searches in September 2020 related to her baby's specific age and milestones. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
About walking, sleep training, all of those kind of things.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and she also did searches about specific types of food. It seemed that she was trying to figure out what she could feed her child, or other things. You would agree with me with respect to that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And again, she did other searches related to the care of her child. You'd agree with me on that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You would also agree that some of that web history and searches included trying to birth certificate, correct?
Yes.
All right, and part of that that were done incorrect. Enforcement reports that they had sought out information to establish.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you understand, or you would agree with me that part of this whole scenario is that one of the reasons we had to establish parentage and stuff was because there wasn't a formal birth certificate or anything else issued.
That's correct.
Okay, so around November 25th of 2020, you would agree with me that these searches indicate that she was looking for how to obtain a birth certificate.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, and some of them included deciding a year later to get a baby a birth certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
And variations of that. She kind of seemed to word it different ways.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall her also looking for how to travel with a baby without that birth certificate?
I do.
And how to obtain, proper documents for her daughter, like a passport and other things around that same time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Part of the Cellbrite report also includes, you get emails, correct? You can see emails that are sent to the associated email address with that phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And those are all truncated, smaller than what the full message tends to be, but you can see who it came from, the date and time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And, kind of the subject and a little bit of the body, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so you would agree with me that if there are certain emails I'm about to reference with you that are generated from that particular